Welcome, everybody. We're going to start. I know there's people coming in, and as they come in, we'll just kind of stare at them and make fun of them for being late. No, we won't do that. We'll do that. But we're here to teach on how to teach an effective youth class. And let's get this out of the way from the very beginning. Youth class is different from children's church. Children's church is its own special thing. And this is not an adult class. You've got to find that line in the middle between these two classes. Youth class is its own special animal. And in order to teach a youth class effectively, you've got to keep this in mind. There are things that you will do in a children's class that will never work in a youth class. Okay? If you start to have coloring pages in your youth class, good luck. You will have crayons quickly thrown across the room. You have crayons thrown at each other, and you will have drawings on these papers that you cannot post on your walls. You cannot treat a youth class like a children's class, nor can you treat a youth class like an adult class. If you're going to teach an adult class, right, we typically would get into a little bit deeper things, right? We might talk about Melchizedek. We might talk about the altar. We might talk about the tabernacle and the plan of the tabernacle and all this kind of stuff. And you can do this in a youth class, but you can't just stand up here and teach the whole time. If you will turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 6, you've got to have some kind of energy, but not child energy. There are certain things that you might wear when you teach a children's class, right? You see Brother Philip, Brother Julian, some of these other ones walking around with the crazy outfits and the outlandish outfits. That will work in a children's class, and you should do it. If you're going to teach a youth class, and you come in walking in like that, these kids are going to look at you like you're just corny, and they're not going to respond. You've got to find a balance, okay? And so a couple of things we have to recognize from the very beginning. I'm going to go off some basic assumptions. Number one, I'm going to assume already that you're all ready to be consistent. You're already consistent. You're already trying. You're already praying. You're already fasting. You're already studying. You're already caring. You're already improving. You're already passionate. All these things that go into this stuff, I'm not going to take time to teach that. I'm assuming you're here. You want to be a part of this. And this is something you want and need to know. And you're already doing this. So these are the basic assumptions I'm coming in with. If you're not doing these things, well, it's a good time to start. It's a good time to start. All right. No, Brother Danny, am I too loud? I just want to make sure. Oh, he's going to check. All right. If I'm too loud, these mics are really, really sensitive. So, all right. And so a couple things we have to recognize that these are people. If they are in a youth class, they are people. Okay? I might get in trouble with some of the children's ministers here, but children are children. Children, they're wild. But once you start getting into youth age, you are starting to develop who you will be as an adult. Your styles are dictated by the era you grew up in. They just are. They're especially with guys, okay? Guys get to a certain point, and this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. I can be 90 years old. This is the way I dress. I don't care what the styles change around me. I'm not changing. This is how I dress, right? And that's dictated by what era you grew up in. You know, you could tell a lot about people and who they are and where they grew up. 50-year-old men. There's certain guys, though, they're wearing their suits a little bit baggier. Certain other guys are wearing their suits a little bit tighter. Nothing wrong either way, but it's the era they grew up in. That's what they're comfortable in. And they start forming this in their youth, okay? Lifestyles, decisions, speech patterns, slang, okay, is dictated by the era you grew up in. When I was a kid, we would say, oh man, that's really cool. And my parents and my grandparents would, oh, you mean it's cold? You know that dumb joke? Well, now kids are saying all these other stuff, and you're like, I don't know what that means, right? That's okay. Your slang is dictated by the area you grew up in. I did an app years ago, and you get on this app and you would answer, what do you call, okay, if you drive into a street and it goes in a circle and comes back out and there's no exit to that street, what do you call that street? Anybody know? Cul-de-sac? Anybody else have any other names for it? Dead end? Some call it a turnabout. Some call it, there were some of the weird names. And judging by what you call certain common things, they could tell you really precisely, within about 20, 30 miles, where you grew up. These things are dictated at this age, at this young youth age. These things are already there. And so you have to remember, these are people. These are people. They are individuals. Sometimes with children, you can do big group things, but when you come to youth, these are individuals. And you can teach a large class setting or a small class setting, but you've got to keep in mind they are individuals and they were all going to act and react differently in your class. Okay? Couple other things, show them what good looks like through your own behavior. Okay? When it comes to youth, when it comes to a kid, there's times when I can tell that kid, hey, sit down. Okay? If I did that to a 14-year-old boy, what's that boy going to do? Whoa, right? Show good behavior. Tell them what you want them to do, not what they shouldn't do. So if you want a 14-year-old boy to sit down, you don't say, hey, sit down. Why? Because I told you to. And now you're in a conflict, right? It's one of those things like, hey, why don't we all sit down? It's time to be quiet. It's time for... And you're demonstrating what they are without becoming confrontational. Because in this youth age, they're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out what they are. They're trying to figure out what they're going to become. And there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of, it's typically in the youth age that youth begin to rebel, right? It's not a matter of they're necessarily bad kids. They're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out what they're about. They're trying to figure out what's going on in their world. And so you have to treat them differently. You show them what good looks like through your own behavior. And greet them by name. When you see them and they come into your class and they've been there for a while, greet them by name. Hey, how are you doing? Good to see you. And not just in the classroom. If you see them out on the street, hey, good to see you. Now they're going to be embarrassed. That's good. Good to see you, because they want to be known. They want to be seen. When you see them at church, hey, how you doing? Hey, how's everything going? Everything good? You will show them your love, and that's what will draw them to you. And then because they know you love them, when they come into your class, they will sit down. They will respect you. They will interact with you because they know you care. But if they don't know you care, why are they going to waste their time on you? Right? So show them these things. And treat them in many ways like you would as an adult. Most people's reasoning processes are already pretty much formed by the time they graduate high school. A lot of your political opinions are formed by the time you graduate high school. A lot of opinions you will hold for the rest of your life are formed while you're still in high school. In fact, even in these youth age areas, you can pretty much tell the kind of person. You might not know the person they're going to marry, but you know the kind of person they're going to marry. Because what did they like in high school? They're going to like that the rest of their life, probably. These things are just automatically formed. And so you're dealing with a very vulnerable time and a very awesome time, because if you can direct this in the right way, now you got something really cool. Now you got something, these with their energy and their youth, now they're growing and they're mimicking what they're seeing in you. And now they're going out and being very effective in their world. Many of the great revivals in our movement, go back and look through the history of it. I don't have time to go through it all, but go back and look at the history of our movement and the different. Many of the great revivals started, number one, with prayer meetings. Okay, prayer is huge. They start with prayer, but then they are carried forward almost exclusively by youth. Most of your great churches, okay, are built on people that came in as they were youth age. I come from Fresno, California. Elder Martin was my pastor. And the backbone of his church when I grew up, the backbone of that great church and all the daughter works that came out of it and all the stuff that came out of that church was built on the revival that happened in that church in the high schools when my mom was in high school age. And you could see this. If you go talk to these pastors, their churches are built on people that came in as youth, got a hold of it, got hooked up to it, and with their energy and with their love and now they become who the church needs to be. Children's ministry is important, but youth ministry is also important. Here's the other problem that most people have when they come to dealing with youth groups. You're intimidated. Why? Because youth are intimidating. Right? Just to say, like, you come in feeling really good about yourself, right? Can you believe Brother Dillon wore that? Oh, man. And how that's what youth do. There's nothing meaner in the world than a middle schooler. Middle schoolers will tell you exactly what's wrong with you and exactly what was wrong with the rest of your outfit and exactly what's wrong with where you live and all that kind of stuff. And you can get really intimidated by youth. Okay? Couple things you can do to eliminate this. Number one, you need to realize that if they see that you care, they won't care about how you look, about how you act, about how you misstep, about how they know that you care. And if they see that you care, a lot of that stuff will go away. So you can do that. Okay? Another way you could do this, think about when you were a teenager. Okay? If you're not a teenager right now, think about when you were a teenager. Okay? Who helped you in your teen years? We almost all have at least one person, and sometimes more, that we can point to and say, that person helped me. That person was there for me. That person talked to me. That person showed faith in me when nobody else in the world did. And strive to be that for somebody else. If you can do that, who cares about the intimidation? Because you know in 20 years from now, they're going to come back and say, man, you were everything to me. The only reason I'm alive today is because of you. I have people in my life, and I know this is on the internet, so I'll be careful. But there was times in my life, especially as a young man, as a teenage young man, where there was thoughts of suicide, and I had people in my life that were there for me that didn't even realize what they were doing. They just came to me and said, how you doing? Hey, let's go do this. Let's go do that. Let's go to dinner. And it was just times and moments that they had no idea what they were doing. But I wouldn't be standing here if they weren't in my life. So think back on that. It's okay. You don't have to be intimidated. Okay? I'll give you another one. If you are older than your youth class, or even if you're younger, it's okay to act your age. I am a 44-year-old man. I'm a 44-year-old man that's out of shape. I am not playing basketball anymore, or very rarely. I'm not playing games with these people. They're going to run circles around me. We're not getting in a foot race. They're going to run circles around me. It's okay for me to be my age. I don't have to learn every new slang term that comes down the road. And I just put this out there just so everybody knows. If you're going to use slang in your classroom, make real sure you know exactly what that means. There's nothing more cringy or more embarrassing than somebody getting up there and saying a word or saying a phrase that they think means this, and the entire youth group is sitting there going, ooh. Be careful. You can act your age. Again, you don't have to be up on every part of their zeitgeist, every part of their culture, every part of what they're living in. You don't have to be up on the latest news and information. Again, I am 44 years old. My kids come to me and they'll be talking about stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what they just said. I have to go ask, what does that mean? Well, that means like this. What does that mean? And eventually we'll come to some kind of understanding. It's okay. They don't care. In fact, if you don't act your age, it's a little bit cringy. Just be yourself. Be who you are. Be what you are. Because they don't care. What they want to know is, do you care? If you can show that, that makes all the difference. Love them and show them that you love them. Greet them. Say hi to them. Be around them. Okay? Couple practical things when it comes to a youth class. Okay? Number one, be prepared. There is nothing worse. Okay, I'll get up on my soapbox. If I had one, I'd stand on it. There's nothing worse than walking into a classroom and they're still setting up, or they're trying to figure out, oh, are you going to teach next, or is it me? Please, For the love of everything, be prepared. Come in, know what you're going to do, know what you're going to say. And if you don't know, pretend that you do. There's a phrase, fake it till you make it. Sometimes you got to fake it. There's times you walk into class and you're not prepared, okay? You better act like you do. Have a couple lessons in your back pocket, if you will. Have a couple object lessons sitting around there. Have somebody else ready to do a game so you can study real quick and figure something out, okay? Be prepared, or at least pretend that you are. Because what happens is the instant they see that you're not prepared, they pick up on it almost instantly that you don't care. Because if you cared, you'd have been prepared. If you cared, you'd have been ready to go. If you really cared about this, you would have done something about it. You didn't. Obviously, you don't care, so why should I? With kids, you can get away with some of that. With youth, they already know. They can tell real quick, and we've all been in places that, and you realize, like, oh, they just don't care. Anybody ever sat in a high school classroom where the teacher's just reading off the page? And then in 1847, what did you do in that class? You tuned them out, you fell asleep, you caused problems, you got sent to the principal's office, something, because you knew they didn't care, so why should you? Okay? Understand that your youth class is facing things that you never faced. Okay? I know we want to think that we know all that's going on in the world, and we try to do our best, and we try to be up on current events, and we try to be up on what's going around. But they will face things that as an older teacher, you never faced. And unless you think that I'm thinking everybody needs to teach youth classes old, let me tell you a story. I was having a youth party at my house for the Rialto Church. There was going to be over 100 kids there. There was going to be a taco man there. They had an axe throwing thing in my backyard. There were 100 kids crammed into my living room. I went and sat outside. There was kids everywhere. It was like a really great, amazing thing. It was a lot of fun. We had a fire. It was fun. Okay? And my kids were so excited. Oh, we're having a party at our house. Okay? And then they said, well, who's going to be here? And I start naming off some of the youth. And they're like, oh. What do you mean, oh? Taco man, axe throwing, kids everywhere. It's going to be a blast. Dad, it's a bunch of old people. Because we are all old people to somebody. We are all old people to somebody. And these were like 14, 15-year-olds, and my kids were like, oh, they're too old. This is several years ago. We're all old people to somebody. And so understand that every generation, every group is going to face issues that you never faced. Okay? And a good way to figure out what they're dealing with is to listen. If all I do in a youth class is just talk, I'm going to miss the boat by 1,000,000 miles. At some point, there needs to be an engagement. Whether it's in front of a class, whether it's during a class, whether it's after a class, whether it's at a youth mixer, something, there needs to be some engagement so you can know what's going on in their world. Because if you don't know, you can't be effective. You know, you'll hear, and as a preacher, I'm guilty of this sometimes. You get up there and you think you know what's going on in the world. So you're preaching about, oh, they're going, and like there's people in your eyes like, never dealt with it in my life. Doesn't even cross my mind. It's making national news. It's not making local news. Nobody cares where I'm at. But you've got to know where people are at. And so you can be effective. Because if you're preaching about something that they're not even dealing with, or you're teaching about something they're not even dealing with, cool. You just wasted 45 to 50 minutes and did absolutely nothing. You accomplished nothing. But if you hit them where they're at, all of a sudden, things could start to change and be good. Okay? And it's okay to privately ask someone, are you okay? Now, be careful with teenagers, okay? Do things in groups. Do things with chaperones. You don't ever want to be alone with a teenager. I don't care if it's guys and guys, girls and girls. You don't want to be alone, okay? The world is weird, and the world does weird stuff. And the world puts weird ideas in people's heads. Be careful. But ask. Come to them. Are you okay? Hey, I noticed for the last 5 weeks you've been playing games and all of a sudden you quit playing. You're sitting off by yourself. Is everything okay? They're not just going to come up and tell you, hey, Brother Dillon, I'm dealing with this at home. I'm dealing with that at home. I'm dealing with this at school. I'm dealing with that at school. Or, hey, I just got into something that I shouldn't be into and I don't know how to get out of it. That stuff happens at this age. You've got to ask them. You've got to communicate with them. They will not just come and tell you. You've got to be there for them. Okay? Behavior issues. I don't know what a better name to call this, so that's what we called it. All right? When you're dealing with youth, okay, there are kids in the youth that are as big as me. Okay? There are kids in youth that I had a friend, he was in 6th grade, he was 6 feet and almost 200 pounds. Okay, in 6th grade. There are kids that are bigger than you. You're not just going to say, hey, you're going to sit here. You're dealing with a toddler class and they start running around, hey, buddy, and you just direct them over here. Try doing that to a youth that's been lifting weights and playing for his local football team. Good luck. You're not going to do it. So you've got to treat them like you would want to be treated. If you walked into a class and somebody said, hey, we need to sit down and okay, cool. But if you can demonstrate it, it's way better. Okay? Encourage and reward what the behavior is you want to see. Bishop Booker and Pastor Booker both have taught this to the youth leaders when they come in. And they've made it very publicly stated. They stated it over the pulpit. They stated it everywhere they can. That don't let the bad kids be the cool kids. Don't let it happen. And it's, as kids, you're gravitating to what's new and different. Okay? You're gravitating to what gets the attention. Sometimes kids are acting bad and acting crazy, not because they're bad or crazy. They just want attention. Why do you think kids come out, the new styles come out and the hair goes this way and the clothes go this way and this happens that way and they're acting this way? Why? Because they want attention. They want to look different. They want to be different than the generation that came before them. Okay? I don't want to act like my parents. I don't want to be just like my parents, even though sometimes it happens. And neither did you. Okay? And your kids, my kids don't want to be exactly like me. And that's a good thing. They should be different, but at the same time, reward the behaviors that you want to see. Hey, I saw, hey man, I really appreciate it. I saw you last week. That kid was sitting all over by himself, but you went and talked to him. Dude, I really appreciate it, man. That was amazing. I really appreciate you reaching out to them. Hey, I heard you text that girl the other day. And you could say that in front of the class. Now they might get a little embarrassed. But that praise goes a long way. And that kid that was acting up and you're not giving them no mind, well, if that's the way to get attention, I'm going to do that. Hey, you know, I called 7 people last week. It was amazing. I talked to them for 10 hours each, right? And you start developing something in a youth group that wasn't there. Publicly praise, brag on, acknowledge the behavior you want to encourage. It's okay to brag on them. If all you do is get up and say, well, you guys been doing this and you've been doing that and you've been doing that. Boop, turn it off. We're done. Nothing else you say matters. But if you could say, hey, I really appreciate it. You got one kid out of the whole youth group that's sitting quietly. Dude, I really appreciate you just sitting there. I was trying to teach that lesson and it was chaos, but man, you just kept your cool and you just sat there. Dude, I really appreciate it. Here's your candy bar. I'm not yelling at everybody else. I'm praising and acknowledging that one. It goes a long, long way. Be firm, but fair. Okay? You can be firm. There are certain things that we tolerate, certain things we don't tolerate in a classroom. I've had to tell kids, you are not allowed back in my class for a couple weeks. I've had to tell kids, hey, you're going to need to leave. You're welcome to go sit with your parents. You're welcome to go sit with your bus worker. You must leave my class. We cannot continue while you are still here. I'll just stand there and wait. Okay? But be fair. Don't let Susie get away with something you won't let Johnny get away with. Don't let Billy get something away with that you won't let Sally get away with. Be firm, but be fair. And give great leeway to individual personalities. When you were a youth, when you were a teen, sometimes day to day, you would try on new personalities. Sometimes day to day, you would try things. Maybe I'll be this person today. Maybe I'll be that person today. When I grew up in Fresno in the 80s, 90s, and I'm not old, I had some friends that were, the wannabe gangsters. So these days I'd want to wear my pants a little bit bigger and try to act cool like that, my 120-pound self, But I had other friends that were cowboys. So there'd be some days I'd try to come out with wear a cowboy hat and the big old belt buckle and walk around like, howdy, boys, and then get my 120-pound self. So cringy when you look back. That's amazing. But they don't know day to day necessarily what their personality is going to be. Sometimes they don't know hour to hour what their personality is going to be. You can talk to them 1 minute, hey, how you doing? Oh, it's great, everything's wonderful. And you talk to them 2 hours later and like, hey, good to see you again. Why? Who are you? How did that happen? Personalities change. Personalities move. Personalities do something at this age. Give great leeway to each child and don't put them in a box. Well, they've been this, so they're always going to be this. They can change. You did. Come on, let's be real. You are not the same person you were as a teenager. You changed. So can they. Give them great leeway. Learn to ignore what you can. If you're in a classroom of more than 5 teenagers, there are going to be things going on in that classroom that you're just going to have to learn to ignore. You're going to have to learn to pretend you didn't see it. We have a no cell phone policy in our youth class. Not allowed to have your cell phones out. Try to keep the youth off their cell phones all day, every day. Good luck. Okay? Sometimes it's happened over here, so you're talking over here. Oh, it's great. And it's one of those things, we just don't like cell phones in the class. They're just right? Learn to ignore what you can ignore. Learn to deal with what you have to deal with. Quietly, calmly. Don't embarrass a teenager. When you are a teenager, embarrassment is the worst thing that can happen to you. There are teenagers that would rather die than be embarrassed. Literally. There is a story of a young man that drowned. And they came to figure out he drowned in a group of people. And he was an athlete, but he didn't know how to swim, and he got pushed in a little bit too deep. And because he didn't want to be embarrassed, he never yelled out, "Help me." Never did it. And died. There are youth that would rather die than be embarrassed. That's why youth, they have, bulimia and anorexia and the different stuff that goes on. They are literally killing themselves. But instead of coming to somebody for help, they're too embarrassed. They don't want anybody to know. We've all heard the stories of girls that have babies in a bathroom somewhere because they didn't want anybody to know they were pregnant. They would rather die than be embarrassed. So don't be the person that embarrasses them. There's times and places where you have to. I get it, okay? You're going to have to seek out your own salvation with fear and trembling, okay? But if at all possible, don't embarrass them. Try to find out after class with other people, with leadership. Get leadership involved to fix some of these problems. But I'm not going to call them out in a class of 40 people. That's death. That's death to teenagers. And it's death to your relationship. You embarrassed me, never going back. Never go back. All right. We've been sitting here long enough. It's time to play a game. You ready? I need 2 teams. I need a team over here. I need a team over here. Let's go, everybody. Up. Come on. This is class participation. And you are all going to be on video, so come on up. Just come on up. I need a team over here. I need a team over here. Pick your own team. I don't care which team you're on. Quickly. I only got a little bit of time, and time is of the essence. All right? All right. Are we ready? Here's how this game works. Are you ready? This game is very simple. On your table, you have marshmallows. and you have spaghetti sticks, and you are going to build. Okay? You have 1 minute to build, and whichever side wins, they get the bragging rights in front of the entire nation that's watching on YouTube. Hello, everybody on the nation. You have 60 seconds, and your time starts now. All right. Go! 60 seconds! 10 seconds are gone! 10 seconds are gone! You have 47 seconds. 47 seconds. You're doing great. Keep on jumping. Don't be shy. Everybody, you're doing great. You have 40 seconds. Keep going. Keep going. It's team 1 versus team 2. You can decide which one you are. You have 35 seconds. Go, go, go. Time is running out quickly. It's going. 30 seconds. We're doing great. Everybody's doing wonderful. I love it. I don't drink water.
I don't know what to do here.
20 seconds. You guys are doing great. I'm seeing great structures being built. I'm seeing great, wonderful things happening. I love it. This is amazing. We got 10 seconds, everybody. 10 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time. Hands up, hands up, hands up. Hands away from the table. All right. Hands away from the table. Lovely. All right. All right. Now everybody return to your seats because we're going to take a vote. Everybody return to your seats. We're going to take a vote. All right. Now I want everybody to judge for me. We're going to call this just Team A, Team number 1. That way you both feel like you're at the top, right? Team A and Team number 1. We're going to judge by round of applause which is the better car. All right, is it team number A? Is it team number 1? All right. Quite frankly, neither team won. These are the most horrible cars I've ever seen in my life. Now why are these the most horrible cars that were ever made in a youth class? I didn't tell you what to build. I just told you to build. And people are doing, wait, stop, wait, what are we supposed to build? I just kept playing. Okay? How many teenagers do you deal with that build their lives like this? Nobody told them what to build, so they're just doing what grandma did. They're doing what grandpa did. They're doing what mom and dad did. They're doing what the friends did. They're doing what their aunts and uncles did. They didn't have any direction. And so they're building like mad. They got energy. They got time, they got life, and so they're trying to do something. They're trying this style, and that hairstyle, and this type of clothing. But nobody gave them any instruction. If you don't give instruction, lives end up like this. Now, if I said build a house, we might have had a better vote. If I said build a teepee, we might have had a better vote. Right? But I didn't tell you what to build. And so everybody just jumped on board and started building like mad. Right? The entire class did. And you're all smart. You're all educated. You've been here. But you just started building. I guess I got to build. Well, what do you think youth are doing with their lives? What do you think your youth group is dealing with? What do you think your youth class is dealing with? They're just building their lives like crazy. Oh, I got to join this friend group. Hey, Dad, I got to get these shoes because if I have those shoes, I'm not cool anymore. I got to wear this thing instead of that thing. DH Gate. Hey, you got to do this. Inside story, I'll tell you later. But you've got to give instruction. Now, if I had you guys come back up here and I gave instruction and we had 1 minute to build a car. In 1 minute, each team would have a pretty good car. It might not be perfect, but it'll look a whole lot better than this. A whole lot better than this, right? If you don't give them something to build their life on, they have nothing to build their life on. Youth class is huge. It's important. It's a big part of their entire week, life, okay? Let's be really real here, okay? If you have a 1 hour Sunday school class, and that's all they ever come to know of God, That is 0.006 of their entire life. That's the only knowledge they have of God, is in that 0.006. 6/100ths of 1%. Okay, it's such a small portion, such a small fraction of their life, that if you waste this time, this may be the only time they ever hear about God. Okay? Youth class is serious. Youth class is a big deal. Okay? Take it serious. You can have fun. You can enjoy it. You can have a great time. But make it something. Make it matter. Don't just get up and teach me about David and Goliath. I appreciate David and Goliath. I love the story. In a children's class, that's all you need to teach them. David and Goliath, and God helped him. Okay? But I'm youth. I'm a teenager. I'm dealing with this and that and whatever. Give me something I can use. Don't just give me knowledge because it makes you feel smart. Give me something I can use. Give me something I can apply. Give me something I can do. I'm going to take a few minutes. We're going to go through a class schedule and a class setup. Okay? Now, with this group, if you go onto my handout on there, if you can find it, good luck. Down at the bottom, I will say this while you're looking, I have some resources on there, some crowd breakers. There's a blog on there. This is not a Christian blog, it's a science blog, but they talk about classroom setup and effective classroom setup, and you could do it in all kinds of weird, it's really cool, I like it. Talks about making sure everybody can see. You know, if you set up a class where only 5 people can see what's happening, it does no good. You know, if you set up a game that not everybody can participate in, you want to raise it up, get it high. Don't put it on the ground where nobody can see what's happening. Okay? Do things that are where everybody can look at. There's curriculum. Brother Philip has curriculum up front. There's a really great book. It's called Apostolic Foundations by Brother Crawford Kuhn. It is a fabulous book for any Christian to read. It has like 72 lessons in it. It's $30 on the WPF website. I actually bought that for all the leadership in my church. And as people come into leadership, I buy more and I give them this book. I said, every year's worth of material, and by that time they're out of your youth class and on the next one you can start over. Okay? Just throwing it out there, it's there. Use it, but there's a lot of great resources out there. Use it. You're not on your own. Sometimes we try so hard to come up with every little thing. 52 lessons in a year, that's a lot. Okay? Google it. Get on a book. Get on a website. Listen to preaching. Listen. You'll find stuff all over the place. Science experiments. They're great. They teach lessons. They're wonderful to do, okay? But here's how a typical classroom works, okay? For the first 5 minutes of class, and even while they're walking in, there needs to be a greeting time. And you, as the teacher, are the greeter. If you're trying to get kids to greet, they will not do it until you demonstrate it. So you walk in and say, hey, it's good to see you. Hey, good to have you in your class today, man. It's good to see you again. How you been, sis? Good to see you. God bless you, man. Hey, how's your mom been? Is everything good? Good to see you. And you're just walking around class. No, she's beautiful. She's not you. This is my wife. Oh, she knocks me over every time. Every time she just knocks me off my feet. It's amazing. But take that time. Say hi. You don't have to get into the in-depth of their life. Is everything okay? How's your grandma doing? Is she still on hospice? That's no way to start class. Do it after class. Bring me down and you down. Right? Don't do that. But take around, shake hands, throw in some dad jokes or mom jokes or something. Be funny. Do something that's fun. Do something that's interesting. Tell dumb elephant jokes. They're my favorites. I love elephant jokes. They're just so dumb and corny. And if you were here early and on time, you got to hear some, and they were amazing. You were blessed. All right? But do this. Take about 5 minutes and take time. Make people feel comfortable. Make people feel welcome. Make people feel like they're a part of something. Okay? For the next 5 minutes, you can do announcements. By the time you get to youth age, there's youth things happening. There's youth activities. There's youth this night. There's basketball on Mondays. There's this on Tuesdays. There's always, or there should be, something going on. And if there's nothing going on, guess what? You as the youth teacher, make something go on. Kids need something to do. If they don't have something to do, they will find something to do. And you will not like what they find to do. They will destroy your house. Right? All right? And goal cast. Setting goals. We'll talk about this in a minute. But setting some goals is a great way to build camaraderie, teamwork, build unity in your youth group. Do something. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. For about the next 10, 15 minutes, intro your lesson. Give them a scripture. Tell them a story that relates to the lesson. If you could throw in a dad joke that relates to the lesson, it's even better. It's amazing. Tell them a lesson. And tell them, if you see them in person, tell them what you're going to tell them. Okay? You're going to teach your same lesson 3 times. If you teach it once, someone's going to miss it. Teach your lesson 3 times. Okay? You're not repeating the same lesson 3 times. You're not saying the same words 3 times. If you do, I stab my own eye with fork. It's just horrible. Right? But teach them the same lesson 3 times. Then, in the middle of it, throw in a game. How many were, right before we started doing the game, how many were getting a little bit tired of sitting in their seat? I would have been. If I was sitting where you're sitting, I was getting tired of hearing my own self-talk. Okay? You throw in a game. Throw in something to do. And especially with youth age, make your game active. Make it fun. Make it exciting. And what happened when we all got done? People that didn't know each other, they were talking to each other, and they were making fun of this group and that. And here we go. We had everything moving and shaking, and people were talking, and it brought the classroom together, didn't it? Because now when we all sat back down, when we first sat in here, we might have been like, I don't know about that person over there. But now we've done something together. We've been around it, and now some of those icebreakers, those barriers have dropped away. All right? Then, for about the next 10 minutes, tell them. Teach them the lesson. Teach them the main point of what you're going to say. If we're going to do a game like this, what do we do when we finish the game? We went right into something that was hard-hitting, something that was impactful, and something that you're not going to forget. When you leave this seminar this week, you will remember this lesson. If you don't tell them what to do, their lives are going to be built all kinds of ways. If you want them to get to where they need to go, you need to tell them. Okay? You're going to remember that. And we went right into, from high energy, high excitement, to something that we all kind of sat there and went, ooh, right? Teaching the lesson, I went, ooh, I got to do that. Make sure I do that. It's just a reminder. But you tell them the lesson. And then finally, the last 10 minutes, and so many people, when I go to youth classes, this is where they mess up. The last 10 minutes of class. The wrap-up and the dismissal. The last 10 minutes of class are the last 10 minutes they're going to remember. And they've already been here in your class for 50 minutes. It's a long time for a kid to be there. Don't lose this part. Do a quick review of what you taught them. Tell them what you already told them. Do a prayer. I end every single class with prayer. Now, I don't have a prayer meeting every single class, okay? Because some classes don't lend to that. But end every class with prayer. And here's how I do it, okay? We're getting close to be done. All right, and then da-da-da-da, make sure everybody does their lesson. Make sure you tell them what they're going to do. Because if you won't tell them what they're going to do, they're going to fall apart. They're not going to make what God wants them to be made. They won't be what God wants them to be. Let's pray. Jesus, and we just start praying. Just start praying. That does 2 things. Number 1, they have no choice but to be a part of the prayer. They didn't have time to get up and move around. They didn't have time to stand up, and as they stand up, Johnny punches Tim, and Tim hits Harry, and here you go, and now your entire lesson is lost. Go right into prayer. I don't have them stand, typically. I don't have them, unless I have them stand before I do the review. I will have them pray right where they're at. And just start it in. Because I'm not giving them time to lose what God's already done. And now that we've prayed about it, There's something about it. It seals it to us, and we don't lose it. We won't lose what we have. And then final dismissal instruction and reminders. Remind them of announcements. Remind them of next week. Remind them of what's coming up. Remind them, hey, if you want to ride to church tonight, please come see me so I can make sure you get a ride. Hey, if you need prayer and you need me to come pray for you this week, come and let me know. If you have something you need to talk to us about, we got teachers scattered all over that. Come and talk to them, and they'd love to talk to you. And right, give them instruction, and then tell them where they're going to go. Because if you just let youth do what they want to do, you might have 15 of them on the roof one Sunday. I was a youth. We did all kinds of stupid stuff. You did too. So tell them where you want to go. Hey, we're leaving here. We're going to go outside. We're going to play on the playground for about 15 minutes, and then it's time for church. However your church does it, every church is different. That's fine. Again, we're not telling them what not to do. We're telling them what to do, where to go. Give them instruction, okay? That's an example class schedule. You can change this up as much as you want. This is what I found works for me. For you, it might be totally different. And each of these lessons, so we basically teach the lesson 3 times. Each of these lessons can be different. You can teach the lesson with the game. I've taught lessons while in the game, while everybody's standing around in the game. All right, everybody freeze. And I'll teach the lesson. Right? Because now they're in the mid, they have become the object lesson of our lesson. Okay? So however it works for you is fine. Show them you care, most importantly. They'll fall in line with all the rest. Okay? A couple things you could do with this age group that is unique. Number 1, you can preach. I'm not a preacher. You're telling them about God, aren't you? Welcome to preaching. All right? I didn't say you're pastoring. I didn't say you're an evangelist. I said you're a preacher. You're telling them about God. How are they going to hear without a preacher? How are they going to hear unless somebody tells them about God? Welcome to the family, folks. You are a preacher. You are telling them about God. So you can preach with this age group. And you can sometimes go very, very deep. There are times when you can go, and I've seen it happen. You could preach, you could teach, and you can go right into an altar call where kids get the Holy Ghost. You can go right into an altar call where consecrations are made. You can go right into an altar call where lives are changed forever. Okay? But only do that when the Spirit bears witness. Okay? If you're teaching a lesson on dating, you're probably not going to have a deep consecration service that day. Okay? You might. But the odds, not highly in your favor. If you're going to teach a lesson about Bible studies and how to teach a Bible study, you might not have a deep move of God in the altar call that day. That's okay. But go deep only when the Spirit of God is there doing that. Okay? And if you do that every time you go to class, you lose your effectiveness. You ever been in a classroom setting where somebody just talks the same way the entire time? Their voice never raises, their voice never goes up or down, their voice never does this. It just stays the same the entire time. And after about 5 minutes, you are sick and tired of hearing that person's voice because their voice never changes. It just always stays exactly the same. And we're starting to shift around in my chairs just now, just thinking about it, right? It's awful. Use some inflection, use some, but if the pastor tells the young preachers this, if you're preaching and all you're doing is yelling, you've lost all emphasis. If you're yelling that Moses planted a tent stake and then Moses went to the store and bought a gallon of milk and Moses got the 10 Commandments, they're all the same. Right? You've got to adjust. Use your voice. But if all you're doing is yelling, you've lost all emphasis. If all you're doing is being quiet, you'll lose all emphasis. If all you're doing is talking, you will lose all emphasis. Use it all. Okay? And use it all in the movings and makings of the Spirit of God. When God's making something in that classroom setting, and all of a sudden you can just feel God sweep into that setting. Step into it. Step into it. But don't try to manufacture something that's not God's not doing. Because you're going to lose it. And then when God does move, it's not effective. You follow the Spirit, okay? All right? Skits in this age group are wonderful. They're great. They're amazing. But make sure that your skit is on point and make sure that it's age appropriate. If you're going to do a skit to a youth group and you forget your lines, good luck. That skit is gone. They will start heckling you. They'll start yelling out lines to you. Oh, you should say this. And that you've lost it. You're gone. Right? It's done. So make sure you're on point and make sure it's age appropriate. Don't necessarily discuss adult things with teenagers. And don't try to treat them like they're little kids. Hi, guys. Good luck with that. Pull out a puppet in a youth class and see what happens. You can do it, but you better be on point. In a kids' church, in a kids' service, you can pull out a puppet. I am the worst puppeteer in the entire world. I forget to move the mouth. I forget to move it around. I promise you, I am the worst in the world. But in a kids' church, I can still do puppets. Try to do that in a youth class. I can see your mouth moving. Yeah. It's like in a kids' church, they don't care after about 2 seconds, right? So make sure you're on point and make sure it's age appropriate. If you try to do children's church to your youth group, it can feel insulting, okay? Music in a youth class is very good, okay? This age group relates to music more than anything else at this stage in life. Youth relates to music. And once you hit a certain age, your music choices kind of just stay the same. They just don't. This is what you like, and that's what you like. Okay. But when you're youth, your music is big. But be ready for a lack of participation with music. If you try to make your youth group all sing together, it could feel highly intimidating. It could feel highly embarrassing, and it will die. If you're going to have live music or something in your youth class, get a group together that's willing to sing in front of everybody else. And let them sing. And let the youth clap along. Some of them might sing, some of them not. Okay? Don't force participation in this age group. Do your best. Like when we played the game, I kind of heckled and bullied everybody and got everybody all riled up and people came up here even if you didn't feel like it, right? If we had a classroom full of teenagers, there'd have been at least 5 or 6 that did not come up here. I'm not going to waste my entire class trying to get the last 5 or 6 up here. Just go on with the class. They might participate next time, and especially if you hand out good prizes to everybody that participated. You be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Okay. Games, especially with movement, are highly encouraged in this age group. They're not a time waster. Don't make it a time waster. Use it to illustrate your lesson or to illustrate something about God. It's a great idea to plan games where it's group games instead of individuals. Individual games could get embarrassing, competitive. Group games are great. Games against your staff, do it sparingly. It's okay to do it, but if every class is a group game against the staff, guess what? Oh, you cheated. You did this. You did that. Or if they win, now they feel superior. They don't feel like they have to listen to you for the rest of the classroom time. So you could do it, but do it sparingly, okay? And it's really good when people can compete against an imaginary opponent, like time, rather than each other. Now nobody feels bad. Either we all won together or we all lost together, but we're all in the same boat, okay? So try to do this. Break up your class into segments. Don't do the same thing for 45 minutes. The low end of the average attention span is 30 minutes. And that's the low end. You go longer than that, people are gone. Give assignments and give rewards. Give them goals to do. Giving outlets to feel useful will do more to promote camaraderie, discipline, and growth than all your teaching combined. Give people something to do. Give them something to be a part of. Outreach, Bible studies, teaching, Bible reading, making contacts, doing good, doing something. Being a part is what it's about. We are done. My time is up. I am over my time. No, I got like 3 minutes. Something like that. We are done. But when you're teaching a youth class, Just let them know that you love them. Let them know that you care. And all the rest of the stuff will work itself out. All the rest of the stuff will come. But if they can see you love them, they'll put up with your corny dad jokes. They'll put up with your bad style. They'll put up with your cringy music choices. Okay? If they know you love them, that's the big things. Thank you. God bless. And go teach them. Jesus.